You cannot bring your daughter to the wedding. She doesn't fit in.
But she's family. How can you say that?
She just doesn't.
I said, if Lenny comes, she'll ruin the photos. That's what my mother told me. Not suggested, not hinted, told me, standing in my kitchen doorway with her arms crossed like she was delivering instructions for a catering order. Not talking about my 6-year-old daughter. She's too awkward, Mara. You know how she is. Julian's family is particular, and this wedding needs to be perfect. I remember the light coming through the window behind her, how it made her look almost angelic, which felt obscene given what she was saying. I remember the way my hands went still on the dish I was drying. I remember thinking, for just a second, that I'd misheard her, but I hadn't. She was asking me to leave my daughter behind at my sister's wedding, because Lenny, sweet, quiet, thoughtful Lenny, might somehow tarnish the aesthetic. I should tell you about my family, because none of this makes sense without context. My mother has always believed that life is a performance, and we are all either assets or liabilities in her carefully constructed narrative. My younger sister, Alara, has always been the asset, shiny, confident, the kind of person who photographs well and says the right things at dinner parties. She's beautiful in that effortless way that makes people assume she's also kind, though she's never had to prove it. I, on the other hand, have always been the footnote, the older daughter who got pregnant too young, married too fast, divorced too quietly, the one who works as a bookkeeper instead of something impressive, the one whose child is sensitive and needs extra patience, code words my mother uses when she means Lenny doesn't perform on command. Lenny is 6. She likes bugs and puzzles and long explanations about why the sky changes colors. She doesn't like loud places or being touched by strangers or wearing scratchy dresses. She takes a while to warm up to people, and when she's overwhelmed, she goes quiet. So quiet you'd think she disappeared. My mother sees this as a flaw. I see it as proof that my daughter knows herself. But that day, in my kitchen, my mother wasn't interested in who Lenny was. She was interested in who Lenny would make them look like. Julian's family is from old money, Mara. Real money, not like us. This wedding is going to be in all the society pages. Ilara's worked so hard for this. You understand, don't you? I understood perfectly. They wanted a pristine day, a flawless backdrop, a family that looked cohesive and elegant and unbothered. And my daughter, my brilliant, gentle, neurodivergent daughter, did not fit the image. I could have argued. I could have cried. I could have begged her to see how cruel this was. Instead, I folded the dish towel and set it on the counter. We won't come then. My mother blinked. What? If Lenny isn't welcome, neither am I. She laughed. Actually laughed. Mara, don't be dramatic. Of course you're coming. Just get a sitter. It's one day. It's my sister's wedding. Exactly. Which is why you'll be there. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw nothing that resembled understanding. No flicker of shame, no awareness that she'd just told me my child was disposable. I'll let you know, I said. She left, assuming I'd comply. That's what I always did. But that night after Lenny was asleep, I sat at my laptop and booked 2 tickets to Paris. If you've ever been the person in your family who bends and bends until you're unrecognizable, you know what that moment feels like. The moment you stop bending. It's not triumphant. It's not even angry. It's quiet. It's almost sad. Because you realize, all at once, that the people who were supposed to protect you never even tried. I didn't tell my mother about the trip right away. I waited. I wanted to see if anyone would ask about Lenny, if anyone would question the idea of excluding a child from a family event. No one did. The group chat buzzed with dress fittings and seating charts and countdowns. Alara sent photos of her veil, her shoes, her calligraphy place cards. My mother posted countdowns on Facebook like she was the one getting married. Not once did anyone ask, "Is Lenny coming?" So 2 weeks before the wedding, I sent a single text to the family group chat. Lenny and I will be out of the country that weekend, wishing Ilara and Julian all the best. 3 dots appeared under my mother's name, then disappeared, then appeared Again, nothing. Alara didn't respond either. My aunt wrote, "Oh no, can you reschedule?" I didn't answer. The silence told me everything I needed to know. They weren't hurt. They were relieved. I need to back up for a moment because you need to understand how we got here. How a family arrives at the point where excluding a child feels reasonable to them. My parents divorced when I was 12, and Alara was 8. My father remarried quickly, moved to Oregon, started a new family. We saw him twice a year if we were lucky, and eventually not at all. My mother never remarried, but she did something else. She made us her project. Alara became the golden child almost immediately. She was naturally outgoing, effortlessly charming, the kind of kid who made adults smile. My mother poured everything into her: pageants, dance classes, etiquette lessons, the kind of intensive social grooming that's supposed to open doors. And it worked. Alara glided through life collecting accomplishments like other people collect receipts. Homecoming queen, sorority president, a marketing job at a prestige firm where she mostly planned events and looked good doing it. I, meanwhile, got pregnant at 19. His name was Ryan. We'd been together since junior year of high school, and when I told him I was pregnant, he proposed in my mother's driveway with a ring he'd bought at a pawn shop. We got married at the courthouse. My mother didn't come. She said she had a migraine, but I knew the truth. She was embarrassed. The marriage lasted 4 years. Ryan wasn't a bad person. He was just absent, physically present but emotionally elsewhere, like he was always looking past me toward some life he'd meant to have instead. When Lenny was 2, he sat me down and said he thought we'd be happier apart. He wasn't wrong. The divorce was quick and quiet. He moved to Phoenix for work and sent child support checks that arrived like clockwork but nothing else. No birthday calls, no video chats. Lenny barely remembered him. My mother's reaction to the divorce was not sympathy. It was disappointment. "I told you rushing into marriage was a mistake," she said, sitting in my tiny apartment while Lenny napped in the next room. "You could have finished school. You could have done something with yourself." "I have Lenny." "Yes, you have Lenny." The way she said it made it sound like a consolation prize. That was 7 years ago. Since then, I've worked. I've kept my head down. I've raised my daughter in a 1-bedroom apartment with furniture from Facebook Marketplace and a car that makes concerning noises every time I accelerate. I've been fine, not happy in the way people post about on Instagram, but fine in the way that matters. Lenny is fed, loved, safe. She has books and art supplies and a mother who shows up. But to my mother, I've been a disappointment, a cautionary tale she references whenever Alara makes a good decision. "At least you didn't end up like your sister," I've heard her say more than once, her voice just loud enough for me to hear from the next room. So when Alara got engaged to Julian, handsome, wealthy, well-connected Julian, my mother saw it as redemption, proof that she'd done something right, that at least one of her daughters had turned out the way she'd planned. The engagement was announced at a family dinner. Julian's family owned some kind of investment firm, the kind of old money that doesn't talk about money because it's simply assumed. His mother wore pearls and spoke in the kind of soft, clipped voice that makes every sentence sound like a correction. Alara was radiant. My mother was radiant. I sat at the end of the table with Lenny, who was 4 at the time, trying to keep her entertained with crayons while the adults toasted with champagne I hadn't been offered. That was 2 years ago. The wedding planning took over everything. Every family gathering became a referendum on napkin colors or floral arrangements. My mother joined the planning committee like it was a second job, coordinating with Julian's mother, who had opinions about everything and the money to enforce them. I was included in the bridesmaids, but barely. I was given a dress to wear and a time to show up and nothing else. No input, no role beyond standing in the background and smiling. And Lenny? Lenny was an afterthought. At first, I thought she'd be a flower girl. That seemed obvious. She was the only child in the immediate family, and she was old enough to walk down an aisle with a basket of petals. But when I asked Alara about it, she got uncomfortable. "We're actually not doing a flower girl," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Julian's family thinks it's a bit juvenile." We're going for a more sophisticated aesthetic. She's 6. I know. But it's just how they want it. I didn't push. I told myself it was fine. Lenny didn't need to be in the wedding. She could just attend, wear a nice dress, eat cake, be part of the family. But then my mother showed up in my kitchen. The morning we left for Paris, Lenny was vibrating with excitement. She'd never been on a plane before. She'd packed her backpack herself. 3 books, a stuffed octopus, and a bag of pretzels she insisted we'd need in case France doesn't have snacks. I watched her at the airport, clutching her boarding pass like it was a golden ticket, and I felt something crack open inside me. Not sadness, something sharper. Clarity. This child, this weird, wonderful, supposedly embarrassing child, was worth more than every polished, preening moment my family had ever orchestrated. We landed in Paris on a Friday. The wedding was Saturday. I turned off my phone. Lenny and I spent that first day wandering. We ate croissants that flaked everywhere. We sat by the Seine, and she counted boats. 47, she announced proudly, though I'm certain she counted some twice. We went to a bookstore that smelled like old paper and cedar, and she read to me in halting French she'd learned from a library app. Her pronunciation terrible, but her confidence absolute. She asked once, quietly, as we walked along a narrow street lined with flower stalls, "Are we going to Annalera's wedding?" "No, love bug." "Because of me?" I crouched down so we were eye to eye, right there on the cobblestones, while people streamed past us speaking languages I didn't understand. "Because we deserve a better adventure." She smiled. Not her polite smile, the one she uses with strangers or teachers or anyone she's trying to please. Her real one, the one that shows her slightly crooked front tooth and makes her eyes crinkle. That night we stayed in a small hotel near Montmartre. The room was tiny, barely big enough for the bed and a chair, but it had a window that opened onto the street below. And Lenny spent an hour leaning out, watching people pass, narrating their lives in whispered stories. "That man is going to meet his secret daughter who's a spy," she said, pointing at a businessman with a briefcase. "And that lady is a retired queen who lives with 73 cats." I lay on the bed and listened to her, and I thought about the wedding happening across an ocean. I thought about the speeches and the dancing and the carefully orchestrated moments designed to look spontaneous. I thought about my mother in her lavender dress. I thought about Alara in white, and I felt nothing, not anger, not regret, just a strange, weightless peace. Saturday came and went. I thought about the wedding, vaguely, distantly, the way you think about a place you used to live but don't miss. I wondered if my mother wore the lavender dress she'd been debating. I wondered if Alara cried during her vows. I wondered if anyone noticed we weren't there. Lenny and I went to the Musée d'Orsay that morning. She was fascinated by the Impressionist paintings, pressing her face close to the canvases until a guard gently reminded her to step back. She wanted to know why the people in the paintings looked fuzzy. "Because the artist wanted you to see how light feels, not just how things look," I explained, improvising, not entirely sure if that was right. She considered this seriously. "That's smart. Feelings are fuzzier than things." In the afternoon, we took a boat down the Seine. Lenny sat at the front, her hair whipping in the wind, pointing at every bridge and building like she'd discovered them personally. I took a photo of her, small and fierce, and completely herself, and almost posted it to Instagram before I remembered I'd logged out. That evening, we had dinner at a cafe with outdoor seating. Lenny ordered escargot because she wanted to try the snails, then spent 10 minutes poking them with a fork before declaring them slimy but interesting. The waiter thought she was hilarious. He brought her a free dessert, a chocolate mousse with a tiny French flag stuck in the top, and she beamed at him like he'd handed her the moon. This, I thought, is what childhood should be. Not performances, not auditions for approval, just wonder. Just trying snails and getting free dessert and being seen for exactly who you are. Sunday, we went to the Louvre. I'd saved it for last because I knew it would take all day. Lenny had a list of things she wanted to see. The Mona Lisa, obviously, but also the Egyptian section and something she called the statue with no arms, which I eventually figured out was the Venus de Milo. We started in the Egyptian wing. She was obsessed. She stood in front of a sarcophagus for 20 minutes, reading every placard, asking questions I couldn't answer. A kind guide noticed and started explaining the burial rituals, and Lenny listened with the kind of focus she gives to things she loves. I stepped back and let her have that moment. I pulled out my phone to take a picture of her, small and serious beneath those massive stone gods. That's when I saw the notifications. 43 missed calls, 62 texts. My stomach dropped. The most recent was from my cousin Hannah. She rarely texted me. We weren't close, hadn't been since we were kids, and she'd decided I was too boring to hang out with. The message just said, "Oh my God." Underneath, a link. I clicked it. It was Instagram, a video, shaky, chaotic, someone's phone clearly held up in a panic. The caption, "When the groom loses it at his own wedding, I press play." The sound hit me first, yelling, glass breaking, gasps. Then I saw him, Julian, the groom, standing in the middle of what looked like a ballroom, his face red, his tux jacket gone, his tie undone. He was screaming, not at Alara, at my mother. "You people are pathetic. You think you can buy your way into our world? You're all frauds. This whole family is a joke." The camera swung wildly. I saw my mother's face, pale, frozen, her mouth slightly open. I saw guests with their phones out, dozens of them, all pointed at the spectacle. I saw Alara in her white dress, hands over her mouth, her eyes wide and wet. Julian grabbed a champagne bottle off a table and threw it. It shattered against a marble column, spraying glass and foam across the floor. "You're all so desperate to be something you're not. It's embarrassing." Someone tried to grab him. A groomsman, maybe, or Julian's father. He shoved them off. "Get off me. I'm done pretending. This whole thing is a sham." The video cut. I stood there, in the middle of the Louvre, holding my phone, my mouth open. Lenny turned around. "Mama, are you okay?" I couldn't answer. I scrolled. There were more videos. Different angles, close-ups of Alara crying, wide shots of guests fleeing, screenshots of Julian's face mid-scream with mocking captions, a trending hashtag, Groomzilla meltdown, an article from a gossip site, "Society wedding ends in disaster, groom's tirade caught on camera," another from a local paper, "Wealthy groom's public breakdown shocks elite guest list." Another text came through, this one from Alara. "Please call me. Please." Then my mother. "We need to talk. Now." Then my aunt. "This is a nightmare. Can you come home?" Then Hannah again. "Are you seeing this? It's everywhere. I read them all." Every desperate, panicked message. Not one of them had apologized for excluding Lenny. Not one. They just wanted me to come back, to close ranks, to help manage the fallout. I looked up. Lenny was watching. Me, her face scrunched with worry. Is something bad happening? I exhaled, slowly. Something bad happened to people who weren't very kind. She thought about that. Then, with the blunt honesty only a 6-year-old can manage, she said, "Good." I laughed. I couldn't help it. It came out sharp and startled, and a little wild. "Yeah, love bug. Good." We spent the rest of the day in the Louvre. Lenny found the Mona Lisa, she's smaller than I thought, and the Venus de Milo. Why didn't they fix her arms? And a sculpture of a lion mauling a man that she found deeply upsetting but couldn't look away from. I kept checking my phone. The messages kept coming. My mother called 6 times in an hour. I declined each one, an aunt I hadn't spoken to in years. "I can't believe you missed this. Where are you?" "A second cousin." "Did you see the video?" "Hannah, your mom is losing it. She's calling everyone." By evening, there were articles in actual news outlets, not just gossip sites, real papers. The story had legs. Local family's wedding turns chaotic as groom attacks. Bride's relatives. Video of wedding meltdown goes viral, sparking debate on class and marriage. Someone had identified Julian's family. His father was a hedge fund manager. His grandfather had some political connections. This wasn't just drama. It was society drama, the kind that gets dissected and analyzed and memed into oblivion. I read one article that interviewed a guest anonymously. It came out of nowhere. One minute we were eating dessert. The next minute he was screaming about how the bride's family were social climbers who tricked him into marrying beneath him. He called the mother-in-law a fraud. He said they were all embarrassing. It was horrific. Another guest. I've never seen anything like it. The bride was sobbing. People were filming. It felt like watching a car crash. And then, buried in the third paragraph of a longer piece, sources say the groom had been drinking heavily and became agitated during the speeches. Friends of the family suggest there had been tension between the two families for months, with Julian's parents reportedly unhappy about the match. So it wasn't just a meltdown. It was a revelation. The perfect wedding, the perfect match, the perfect merger of families. It had all been a facade, and Julian had ripped it apart in front of everyone. That night, back at the hotel, I finally listened to one of my mother's voicemails. Her voice was tight, strained. Mara, I don't know where you are, but you need to call me. This is serious. There are reporters asking questions. Alara is devastated. We need family right now. Call me. I deleted it. Lenny was asleep, curled up with her octopus, her face peaceful. I sat by the window and looked out at Paris. The lights, the streets, the people living their lives far away from my family's disaster. And I felt it again, that weightless peace. They had built everything around an image, around status, around what people would think, and it had collapsed anyway. The child they excluded to protect their perfect day had nothing to do with its destruction. The problem was never Lenny. The problem was them. I didn't call my mother back that night, or the next day. Lenny and I finished our trip. We went to Versailles and she was appalled by the excess. Why did one person need so many rooms? She kept asking, genuinely baffled. We went to a market and bought tiny jars of lavender honey. We fed pigeons in a park and she narrated their backstories. That one is the mayor of the pigeons, she said, pointing at a particularly fat one. And that one is his enemy who wants to overthrow him. My phone kept buzzing. I let it. By the time we flew home, the full story had come out. Julian, it turned out, had a history, not just anger issues, though there were those too. A restraining order from an ex-girlfriend, a sealed lawsuit from a former business partner who claimed Julian had threatened him, an incident at his college fraternity that had been quietly buried with family money. His family had money, yes, old money, protected money, but they also had secrets and enough power to bury them. Until Julian unraveled in front of 300 people with their phones out. The videos went viral, millions of views, reaction videos, TikTok breakdowns, memes of his face mid-scream with captions like, "When you realize you married the wrong tax bracket," and POV, "You're too rich to have developed emotional regulation." The wedding became a cautionary tale, a symbol of everything shallow and broken about social climbing and performative perfection. My mother's friends stopped calling. Her social media went quiet. The people who'd been so eager to attend the wedding of the year suddenly wanted nothing to do with the fallout. Alara deactivated her Instagram, then her Facebook, then disappeared from the internet entirely. And I, the overlooked daughter, the one with the awkward kid, was completely untouched because we hadn't been there. The irony was so sharp it could cut glass. They had excluded my daughter to avoid embarrassment, and they ended up globally humiliated anyway. When we landed at the airport, I turned my phone back on fully for the first time in days. 71 missed calls, over 100 texts. I scrolled through them numbly while we waited for our luggage. Most were from my mother, some from Alara, a handful from relatives I barely knew, all suddenly very concerned about how I was doing. One from Hannah. "Your mom is losing her mind. She's saying you abandoned the family." I almost laughed. We took an Uber home. Lenny fell asleep in the car seat, exhausted from travel. I carried her up to our apartment, tucked her into bed, and stood in my kitchen. The same kitchen where my mother had delivered her cruel verdict, and I felt like a different person than I'd been 2 weeks ago. Not harder, not angrier, just clearer. There was a knock at my door at 9 p.m. I looked through the peephole. My mother. She looked smaller than I remembered. Older. Her makeup was perfect. It always was. But her hands were shaking as she raised them to knock again. I opened the door. She looked at me like she was seeing a ghost. "You're back. We landed this afternoon. You didn't call." "No." She stepped inside without being invited, her movements tight and controlled. She looked around my small apartment like she was cataloging evidence of my failures. "We need to talk." I closed the door. "Okay. You saw what happened." "I did." "It's a disaster, Mara. An absolute disaster. The press won't leave us alone. People are making jokes. There are memes. Alara is devastated. This was supposed to be her day. And now everyone knows what kind of man she married." She flinched. "That's not fair, isn't it? He was drunk. He was stressed. It was a moment of, it wasn't a moment, Mom. There are articles. He has a restraining order. He's been violent before. Those are rumors. They're public record." Silence. My mother's jaw worked. She folded her arms across her chest, her posture defensive. "Regardless," she said, her voice tight, "we need to present a united front. The family needs to stand together. That means no talking to reporters, no commenting on social media, no what? No making this worse." I stared at her. "You want me to protect the family?" "Of course." "The family that didn't want my daughter at the wedding?" Her face went stiff. "That's not, we never said, you said she'd ruin the photos." "I was trying to, you told me she was too awkward, that Julian's family wouldn't approve, that she'd embarrass you." My mother's mouth opened, closed. Her eyes darted away. "I was trying to make things easier for everyone." "Easier for who?" "For you. You don't understand the pressure, Mara. Julian's family has expectations, standards. I was trying to protect you from what? From them judging my daughter? They judged her anyway. You just didn't want me to notice." The air between us felt like glass. "Mara." Her voice was softer now, pleading. "I made a mistake. I see that now. But this isn't the time to, we need to stand together. That's what families do." I looked at her. This woman who raised me, who taught me to smile through pain, who measured love in appearances. And I felt nothing. Not anger, not sympathy. Just a vast, tired emptiness. "No," I said. "No, I'm not covering for you. I'm not managing your image. I'm not pretending this didn't happen. You're being vindictive." "I'm being a mother." She stared at me, her face pale. "Lenny is 6 years old," I said, my voice steady and quiet. "And you told me she wasn't good enough to stand in a room with you, that she'd embarrass the family just by existing. So no, I'm not standing with you now. That's not what I meant." "It's exactly what you meant. I was thinking about the photos, about how things looked. I know. You're always thinking about how things look." My mother's hands were shaking now. She gripped her purse like it was the only thing holding her upright. "I need you," she said, and her voice cracked. And for just a second, I felt it. The old instinct to comfort her, to smooth things over, to make myself smaller so she could feel bigger. But then I thought about Lenny, about Paris, about feeding pigeons and eating snails and being exactly who we were without apology. "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it, but I can't." She left without another word. I stood in my doorway and watched her walk down the hall, her back straight, her heels clicking against the tile. She didn't look back. Alara called a week later. I almost didn't answer, but something, curiosity maybe, or the ghost of the relationship we'd had as kids, made me pick up. "Mara." Her voice was small, broken. "Hey, Alara." Silence. Then, quietly, I'm sorry. I didn't answer right away. I should have stood up for Lenny. I should have told Mom that was wrong. Yes, I said. You should have. I was so focused on the wedding, on making everything perfect, on impressing Julian's family. I didn't think. You didn't think about my daughter. More silence. I could hear her breathing on the other end. Shaky, uneven. I don't know if Julian and I are going to make it, she whispered. I sat down on my couch. What happened, Alara? He's not who I thought he was. The restraining order? You saw that. Everyone saw it. She made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. His family tried to bury it. They said it was a misunderstanding, that the girl was lying. I believed them. And now I don't know what to believe. I waited. He hasn't hit me, she said, her voice hollow. But he throws things. He says terrible things when he's angry. And he drinks, Mara. So much. I didn't see it before because we were always at events, and everyone drinks at events. But now that we're alone, you need to leave. I know. I mean it, Alara. You need to leave. I know. But she didn't sound convinced. She sounded scared. Where are you right now? I asked. At our apartment. He's out. Business dinner. Do you have somewhere you can go? Mom's, I guess. What about friends? A pause. I don't know who to trust anymore. Everyone saw the video. They're all talking about it. Let them talk. Easy for you to say. You weren't there. The words hung between us. No, I said quietly. I wasn't. She started crying then. Real, gasping sobs. I'm sorry, she choked out. I'm so sorry, Mara. I was awful to you. I let Mom exclude Lenny. I didn't stand up for her because I was selfish and I wanted everything to be perfect. And now everything is ruined and I deserve it. I wanted to feel sympathy. I tried. But all I felt was tired. I don't think you deserve to be abused, Alara. But I deserve to lose everything else. Maybe you deserve to learn something. She went quiet. I hope you figure it out, I said. I really do. But I can't fix this for you. I'm not asking you to. Aren't you? Another long silence. Are we okay? She asked finally, her voice small. I thought about that. About the years of being second, of watching her be celebrated while I was tolerated, of the way she never questioned why I wasn't enough, of how easily she'd let our mother erase Lenny from the wedding. I don't know yet, I said honestly. She cried. I let her. When she hung up, I didn't feel victorious. I just felt free. A month later, I got a call from Hannah. I need to tell you something, she said. What? Your mom is rewriting the story. I almost laughed. Of course she is. No, I mean really rewriting it. She's telling people you skipped the wedding to be spiteful, that you knew something would go wrong and didn't warn anyone, that you wanted Alara to fail. I sat down. She's making me the villain. Yes. Does anyone believe her? Some people. The ones who want to. The ones who need someone to blame besides Julian. I should have been surprised. I wasn't. Let her, I said. You're not going to defend yourself. What's the point? Mara, she's trashing you. She's saying you're jealous, that you've always been jealous of Alara. I know what she's saying, Hannah. And you're just going to let her? I thought about Paris, about Lenny and the pigeons and the Louvre. The people who matter know the truth, I said. Everyone else can think whatever they want. Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then, you're different. Yeah, I think I like it. That surprised me. Really? Really? You were always so careful, like you were afraid to take up space. But now you sound like you don't care what anyone thinks. I care what Lenny thinks. That's different. I know. She paused. For what it's worth, I told your mom she was being ridiculous. I told her you had every right to skip a wedding where your kid wasn't welcome. Thank you. She didn't like that. I'm sure she didn't. We talked for a few more minutes, and when we hung up, I realized something. I hadn't thought about my mother in days. Maybe a week. She was becoming background noise, a story I used to be part of, but wasn't anymore. Alara and Julian separated 3 months after the wedding. I heard about it through the grapevine, through Hannah, who heard it from an aunt, who heard it from my mother. No one called to tell me directly. There was a brief statement posted on Alara's dormant Instagram. After much reflection, Julian and I have decided to part ways. We ask for privacy during this difficult time. The comments were brutal, schadenfreude and mockery, and people who'd probably never met her weighing in on her life. She turned off comments and went dark again. I thought about calling her. I didn't. 6 months later, she did call me. It was a Saturday morning. Lenny was at a friend's birthday party. I was cleaning the apartment, half listening to a podcast, when my phone buzzed. Alara. I stared at the screen for 3 rings before I answered. Hey, hey. Her voice was quieter than before, steadier. Is this a bad time? No. What's up? I'm in town. I was wondering if we could get coffee. I hesitated. You don't have to, she added quickly. I wanted to see you. Okay. We met at a cafe near my apartment. She was already there when I arrived, sitting at a corner table with a latte she hadn't touched. She looked different, thinner, her hair shorter, no makeup. She was wearing jeans and a sweater. Nothing designer, nothing meant to impress. She looked, for the first time in my life, normal. Thanks for coming, she said as I sat down. Of course. We were quiet for a moment. She twisted her cup in her hands. I'm living with a friend, she said. In the city. Mom doesn't know. She thinks I'm still at the apartment with Julian. You haven't told her about the separation? I told her. She didn't believe me. She kept saying we'd work it out. Of course she did. Alara smiled, but it was sad. She called Julian. Did you know that? After the wedding, she called him and apologized for his stressful day. She tried to smooth things over. I wasn't surprised. She told me I needed to be more understanding, that marriage is hard, that I should give him another chance. Jesus. Yeah. She took a sip of her latte. Her hands were shaking slightly. I'm in therapy now, she said. That's good. Yeah, it's hard, but good. She looked up at me. My therapist asked me to make a list of people I'd hurt, people I needed to apologize to, and I'm on the list. You're at the top of the list. I didn't know what to say. I was awful to you, Mara. For years. I let Mom treat you like you were less than me. I participated in it. I believed I was better than you because I did everything right. She air quoted the word, her mouth twisting. And then everything fell apart, and I realized I didn't do anything right. I just did what I was told. I performed, and I married a man I barely knew because he looked good on paper. Alara. And I let Mom exclude Lenny from my wedding, a 6-year-old, because she wasn't polished enough, because she might make us look bad. Her voice cracked. I think about that all the time now, about how cruel that was, about how it must have felt for you. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw something I'd never seen before. Shame. Real, genuine shame. I can't undo it, she said, but I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. I sat with that for a moment. Thank you, I said finally. Do you forgive me? I don't know yet. She nodded. That's fair. We sat in silence. It wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. How's Lenny? She asked. She's good. She's at a birthday party right now. She's obsessed with marine biology lately. Wants to be a marine biologist when she grows up. Alara smiled. That's so cool. Yeah, she's pretty great. I'd like to meet her. Properly, I mean, if that's okay. I thought about it. Maybe, I said. Someday. She nodded. I'll wait. We finished our coffee. We talked about small things. Her therapy, her new job at a nonprofit, the friend she was staying with. She didn't ask about our mother, and I didn't offer. When we stood to leave, she hugged me. It was awkward and brief, but it was something. Thank you for giving me a chance, she said. I haven't decided yet what I'm giving you. She laughed. Fair. I watched her walk away, and I thought about forgiveness, about whether it was something you gave all at once or in pieces, about whether you could forgive someone without forgetting. I didn't have the answer yet, but I was willing to find out. I don't talk to my mother anymore. She tried, in the months after the wedding, to force a reconciliation. She'd show up at my apartment unannounced. She'd send long emails explaining how I'd misunderstood her, how she'd only wanted what was best for everyone, how I was being unfair. I didn't respond. Eventually, she stopped trying. I heard through Hannah that she'd moved to Florida, that she'd joined some kind of social club for retirees, that she was telling people her daughters were busy with their own lives and leaving it at that. I didn't miss her. I thought I would. I thought there would be some moment when I'd break down and need my mother, some crisis that would make me pick up the phone. But it never came, because I'd built something better. Lenny and I have rituals now. Friday night movies, Saturday morning farmer's market, Sunday pancakes shaped like animals. She's 8 now, in 3rd grade, thriving. She has friends who understand her, teachers who see her, a mother who never, ever makes her feel like she's too much or not enough. We went back to Paris last summer. She remembered it. Not everything, but pieces. The Louvre, the snails, the pigeons. "This is where we were during Aunt Alara's wedding," she said as we stood by the Seine. "Yep. Why didn't we go to the wedding?" "Because we chose something better." She thought about that. "I'm glad we did." "Me too, love bug." She took my hand. "Mama?" "Yeah. I don't think I want to go to weddings when I grow up. They sound stressful." I laughed. "Some of them are. Some of them are beautiful." "How do you know which kind it'll be?" "You look at who's getting married. If they're kind to each other, it'll probably be beautiful." She nodded, satisfied with that answer. We stood there, watching boats go by, and I thought about the trajectory of our lives. How different things could have been if I'd bent, if I'd left her behind, if I'd prioritized their comfort over her dignity. But I didn't, and here we were, safe, happy, unburdened. If you've ever been the person your family underestimated, you know what I'm talking about. You know the specific flavor of being tolerated, but not celebrated. You know what it's like to watch someone else get the benefit of the doubt while you get the blame. And you know, maybe you're just learning this now, that the moment you stop trying to earn their approval is the moment you start living. People ask me sometimes if I regret it, missing the wedding, cutting off my mother. They expect me to say yes, to express some sadness or ambivalence, but I don't, because I know what happened at that wedding. I know what my daughter would have seen, what she would have felt. I know she would have stood there in some uncomfortable dress, watching people perform love and family while excluding her from both. And I know that no perfectly plated dinner or choreographed first dance was worth that. They said my 6-year-old would embarrass them. But standing in the Louvre, watching their wedding collapse on my phone, I understood the truth. The only thing truly embarrassing was who they chose to protect. Not the child who needed love. The image that needed nothing. I don't know what happens next for them. I don't check, but I know what happens for us. We keep going to museums. We keep asking questions. We keep trying new things and laughing at our mistakes and taking up space. And we do it without apology. Because the people who wanted us small don't get to define us anymore. They wanted perfection. We chose peace. And in the end, peace is the only revenge that matters. Lenny asked me once, a few months ago, if I thought Grandma ever thought about us. We were making dinner. Pasta, her favorite, and the question came out of nowhere. "I don't know, love bug. Maybe." "Do you think she's sorry?" I thought about that while I stirred the sauce. "I think she's sorry things didn't go the way she planned. I don't know if she's sorry for how she treated you." "That's sad." "Yeah, it is. Do you miss her?" "Sometimes I miss the idea of having a mother who sees me, but I don't miss her." She thought about that, twirling pasta on her fork. "I don't miss her either," she said. "Is that bad?" "No, baby. That's honest." She smiled and went back to eating. And that, I think, is the real lesson. Not that you have to forgive people who hurt you, not that family is everything, but that you get to choose who deserves your time, your energy, your love. And the people who make you feel small, they don't. We're okay, Lenny and I. Better than okay. We're building a life that's ours, messy and imperfect, and completely free. And when I think about that wedding, that perfect, doomed, humiliating wedding, I don't feel angry. I feel grateful because it showed me exactly who they were, and it gave me permission to walk away. They built a stage. We found a different world, and we've never looked back.